the American dream is dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016, year of the snake. It's time for a change in the White House, y'all. Bring it. If you want to real, then you gotta get a real nigga. Want a real leader, then we need a real man. Never want it with all them terrorists. America needs a man that can. If you wanna feel safe in your own backyard, one choice. You gotta play your trump card. I say Trump, you say hell.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. That's Andra. Good to see you. We're just letting some people come on in, share the post, share. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, share. Let folks know we're going live. We're going to talk about a lot of good news today. Interesting news. Hello, Nick. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. Chuck, how's it going? And we're just letting folks come on into the room as we do each and every day, you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are now broadcasting on all three platforms at the same time. So Facebook, Twitter, which is Periscope, and YouTube. So it's all spread out. It's harder to keep me quiet this way. Facebook. We got some great clips. We're going to show you the Project Veritas clips tonight. Talk about what these Bernie bots are all about. That's so weird that they only let you copy and paste. The things that they do to make us jump through hoops. It's frustrating. I guess it's better than Gulag, but how's it going, my Moncton? Good to see you in the room, my friend. Chris McDonald, representing Trump Talk US here on Facebook, liking, sharing links, doing all the stuff I can't do. This is why we need our keyboard patrons. That's what I'm calling them. Keyboard patrons. We need them. There's a lot of work to be done. You guys, we got to start emailing and calling and talking to these senators now. We're going to discuss it. We're going to discuss it with all the news of the day and the news coming up. Actually, because things are still unfolding. Of course, everybody, we're listening to Laser Snake. Make America Great Again, and we always start the show out with a little Laser Snake to let people bring in some folks and get started, get one done. So, welcome everybody, Trump Talk US. How's it going? 2020 critical season. Mary, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you, Laser Snake buddies. We love you. How's it going, Marita? Good to see you. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the one and only Trump Talk US 2020 live in DC with Suzzanne Monk. I'm Suzzanne Monk. We're 8 minutes away from the Capitol, right out over there. We can see the Washington Monument, too, right? Just about 13, 14 minutes away, because the Washington Monument is right at the end of where the White House South Lawn, if you know anything about your nation's capital, which you should, because this is the people's city. When we say we the people have a capital, and that is where I live, right here in Washington, D.C. I'm proud to do it. So I want to talk about all the news we have going on. Of course, I want to mention my great friends over at the Trump Tower US. I'm wearing a fantastic batik. Let me show you this great batik for my friend Joseph Cezura. If you would like to get more information on these great batiks, look at this detail. Look at this design. Look at that. That's all batik. Batik, layers of dyeing and wax. He just does beautiful work. And then on the back, let me see if we can see the back. The back's got the Trump. So if you love it, message me. I can get you one. So he's a great guy. Yes, I will be in Richmond. So let's talk about. We'll talk about impeachment second, but let's talk about the Virginia rally because I want to make sure that we get the information out. There's Chris, Patricia, good to see you. Lisa, welcome. Cindy, welcome. Intati, yes, in fact, beautiful boutique. I know, love it. Here's what's going on in Richmond. Now, we know there's a big rally going on during what they call lobby days down in Richmond, Virginia. And we've seen, hey, Debbie, how's it going? We've seen in Richmond, we've seen in Virginia with the Democrat takeover of the state legislature, a flood of not just gun laws, but a lot of gun laws threatening confiscations, threatening to ban martial arts training, threatening to do a lot of really big state government stuff. And people got mad. Okay. So they have been coming down. Gun owners, Second Amendment supporters have been coming down to the Capitol all throughout the last week or so, making their voices heard. Several of the bills have actually been rescinded since that time. Since the people started coming and complaining, several bills have been rescinded. Several are still in the works. Some have been passed, including the temporary order and an emergency order now added to that. To the legislature passed a rule stating that no firearms will be allowed on Capitol grounds. Now, they're doing that in advance of this now panic they're having about this Second Amendment rally on the 20th, because the three percenters are going to come and the militia groups are going to come. And yes, of course, those groups are going to come and exercise their Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. They are going to assert that that is their constitutional right, as it is. You know, we let's check. We always like to check on the show. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. Nope, didn't change. Just checked. Still the same. The living Constitution didn't change. The Second Amendment still there. So, of course, they're going to come down. Now, the news is hyping this up as to create an intentional panic. So the governor of Northam, or Governor Blackface, as my Virginia friends call him, Governor Blackface apparently has ordered a state of emergency in advance for the 20th, which is just the exact kind of thing that hypes up the media, hypes up the fear that this idea that if you bring a bunch of gun supporters together, they're going to have a shootout like it's the Wild West, and you just invited Wyatt Earp and Black Bart to the same town. It's a ridiculous notion, but it's how the Democrats are trying to manipulate the situation to create a lot of fear and panic. Now, what I do know, the 3% and militia groups are in communication and coordination with one another. They are making a solid and coordinated plan. This isn't just, they're not just, woo, we're all going to come down. Yosemite Sam, pew, pew, pew. No. All of the groups coordinating with gun advocacy groups. There's going to be a peaceful demonstration. Yes, Connie, already comparing it to Charlottesville, when here's the reality of the situation. Okay. Charlottesville, as we all know and have talked about on the show many, many times, the problem of Charlottesville was, one, the police stood down with two disparate political groups, one group intent to cause harm and one group intent to defend themselves. They let the leftists with their homemade flamethrowers and piss balloons right up next to and intermingle in causing physical clashes with, not preventing fights with, the conservatives or right-wingers or even white nationalists, whoever were there to assert their opinion that the statues should not be torn down. They were the whole thing starts over some statues, and then you add into it some manipulation by people like Richard Spencer and Jason Kessler, who benefit themselves from the idea of getting people riled up. And then, of course, you bring the radical left and you bring the manipulated right. It's actually the left. Psst, psst. Richard Spencer and Jason Kessler, they're the left. They're not on our side. They're not. No, they want the government to be much more in control and impose their agenda, which often is race-based, unfortunately. So, and you saw The View just recently applauding Richard Spencer because he no longer likes Trump. So The View is more concerned whether or not you like Trump than they are if you are a white supremacist who really believes that America should be a white nation, which is obviously a ridiculous racist position. View. The View. How's it going, Tim? Good to see you. So, yes, they have grouped them all together. Of course, they're saying on the dark web, there's been talks of threats. Here's the thing. On the internet, any amount of threats can happen because any fake profiles, anybody pretending to be 3%ers, we all find these people in our Facebook lists. You know, they sometimes they're the people that did I even friend this person, and they just appear. You know, and then we send out messages. This person is not who they say they are. They're an infiltrator. They're a troll. They're a Bernie bot. They're a whatever it was, whoever they're supporting, but they're there to troll, to get information, to report people, to get people put in Facebook jail, to dox people. This is what they're there for. So, threats on the internet. Give me a few minutes. I get any one of us. Chris McDonald could create an internet crisis himself, just sending messages on the internet in an evening. I mean, it's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? So they're making this kind of into something that it's not, because the feedback I'm getting, obviously, even on our side, there's a bunch of people who talk big and they're mad and they lip off a little bit here and there. But in the reality, the groups I am aware of, the 3%er groups, the militia groups, they're in communication. The organized groups are in communication with one another and are operating under a sane and reasonable premise to exercise not only their Second Amendment rights, but their First Amendment rights. Yeah, Connie, exactly. She says here, Connie says it's about Charlottesville. One group went to the park they weren't supposed to be at. Yes, exactly. And they funneled them in together. It was an entirely leftist created scenario. And we're going to talk about that a little bit when we talk about the Project Veritas videos, how the left creates these kind of scenarios. So that the left wants to go around saying that there's going to be another Charlottesville. I can guarantee you it's not going to be that. I can guarantee you that's not the process we're going to see on the 20th. What we're going to see is American constitutional citizens coming together en masse in numbers to stand and defend their Second Amendment and their First Amendment rights. Their First Amendment rights to speak out and defend with their voices their Second Amendment rights. It's not going to be civil war. Trust me, this is going to be, if you are looking for the 20th to be the Civil War II, it's going to be like Geraldo opening Al Capone's vault. That's what it's going to be like. It's going to be like a long, live feeds, everybody's live feeds for hours, because we're going to get there like 9 o'clock. It's going to be there all day. Live feeds, you're going to be watching all day, waiting for the flashpoint, and it's not going to happen. And you're going to be really disappointed at the end of the day. So we're there to defend the Second Amendment, and I suspect things will go very smoothly. But in fact, the Democrats, like always, trying to gin up panic, gin up fear, make everybody upset, make everybody freaked out, hopefully triggering. I think on their side, they literally want to trigger some of these crazy people who might actually show up. Frankly, the craziest ones are on the left. It's more to trigger some crazy guy on the left who's going to get a gun and go shoot up a bunch of gun nuts because he doesn't understand the irony of, if I shoot people with a gun because I oppose people shooting people with a gun, you're stupid or a Democrat. But that's more likely who it's going to gin up. You know, it wasn't a conservative who shot Steve Scalise. In fact, a great number of these rogue attackers, what are we finding? When they're not a radical Islamist, which we know why they are attacking us, they have declared jihad and they have whole organizations to try to commit acts of terror on the United States. Domestic terrorists, 9 times out of 10, almost invariably. People like Timothy McVeigh, the rare exception, almost invariably on the left. Why? The left is violent. So, yep, exactly. Yep, the mayor called a state of emergency until everybody leave. And already Richmond has put out a list of all the roads that they're going to block, and they're going to do all of this craziness. I suspect, ultimately, I don't think they have any idea the number of people that were really going to show up and the peacefulness of those people, the constitutionalists. They always want to assign their leftist rage to people on the right. And people on the right, if we wanted to go on rampages, a lot of my friends are much better armed for that. And yet, none of my conservative friends have gone on any rampages whatsoever, though they own many guns. None of my conservative family, none of my gun-owning family, no one I know who loves the president, although they have many, many guns, has seemed they need to go on a rampage, and nor have their guns gone on a rampage by themselves, because guns don't kill people. People kill people. Starting to look like leftists kill people. Are you being exaggeratory, Suzzanne? No. Let's talk about this Project Veritas video. It's a perfect segue into the Project Veritas video. I stand by my statement. Leftists kill people, and they fantasize about killing people. And you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about in just a second. So, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas just recently, over the last 2 days, has started dropping undercover video from a paid Bernie staffer, a top-tier Bernie staffer. Let me explain to you how, if you're getting paid any kind of thousands of dollars, you're a pretty established, pretty in-the-system staffer. It's hard to get money out of these campaigns. A lot of that work is done volunteer, particularly in the primary stage where they're all at. So the idea that this man was paid, according to records that Project Veritas has found already, $11,000, indicates that he is in fact a staffer, a well-known staffer, someone who's been with the organization for quite some time, and they are finding out his views, his radical views, were known from the beginning. Now, why is that such a big deal? Because this gentleman said some pretty crazy things. Now, let's pull this up right over here. I'm going to pull over here, and we're going to scroll down just real quick. Let's see where the first one is. Okay. So I'm going to just share this screen over here like this. Let me click share screen first. And we're going to be here. I'm pulling this up right now. Oh, I shared the wrong screen. Now we're going to say that's the one we're going to share that one next, because this is not a new phenomenon in any way. There we go. So now we are here. And let's play this right here.
What would you kind of consider yourself? Like, where on that spectrum?
I'm an anarcho-communist. So, I'm as far to the left as you can possibly get. Yeah, and in fact, there's, that I know of, four of the organizers in this office are leftists. So Justin, Jared, Jessica, are all definitely further left than the rest. If you can't handle me at my most communist, then you don't deserve me at my most anarchist. There's a lot of me's in the Bernie campaign. Like, that was the intention of Gulag, right? It's like not only to remove the people that were insidious to the state from the state. Like, hey, you guys are all causing problems. You're working against the revolution. We're just gonna remove you and put you in Siberia, where you learn the value of like being a comrade. Like, I mean, and that's like, you know, that's what it has to be. Like, our prisons in the United States right now are far worse than anything that they experienced in Gulag. Like, people get raped. People fucking work 12 hours a day. People have to go fight fires in California for $1. You know what I mean? Like, that's super. Soviet Union didn't do that. Like, I've met him a few times. I've met him at an event with Rose, and we were talking about policy and stuff.
Yeah, he's fabulous. Yeah, he's fabulous. Yeah, he's fabulous.
So, as you see now, it's very interesting. You see this gentleman talking about, let's pull this up here because we're going to pull up some additional, pull this back out here. He talks about the gulags. And this poor gentleman really needs an education. We're going to play another clip of him. Hopefully I'm going to find the earlier clip as well. He doesn't understand the torment, the torture, the violence, the physical maiming, you think American prisons are bad? Now, yeah, I agree. We do have some conditions in our prisons where prison rape is a thing. You know, prison violence is a thing, obviously. But you didn't have TV and meals. They starved you. They burned you. They committed experiments on you. They tortured you. The gulags were a horrible torment. So this gentleman is obviously very confused in what he seems to think the gulags are, but you know, much like any other individual. So let's listen to a little bit more of just how stupid this guy is. This is David Harris. Hold on, I just want to play the video, David. I don't want to. Let's see. Here we go.
So many people have suicided themselves that have been related to the Clintons in some way or another. It's insane.
Hillary Clinton?
Maybe. Revolution.
Hillary Clinton?
No, in the Don.
Let me tell you something about this
No, we
revolution.
don't got to kill the Clintons. We'll make them kill themselves.
How's that?
Reign of terror.
Reign of terror, they say. Reign. What does that mean, sir? What does that mean? Let's see which one is. I'm looking for the original. Here we go. Let's see this.
Bernie doesn't get the nominees. It goes to the second round of the DNC convention. It'll start in Milwaukee, and then when the police push back on that, other cities.
So there's been a number of videos. There continue to be new videos coming out, more and more clips with Kyle. And James O'Keefe has basically hinted and stated pretty kind of open, it's a pretty bold hint, that there are additional individuals that he will be revealing in the coming days. Let me catch up on comments. Like I need people think people got living wages while in the gulag, and the gulags are in Germany. Yeah, he actually also in one of the other clips, he thinks that the McGovern race was when the DNC had the riots, when it was actually in 1978, when it was actually in 1968. He's not a very smart person. How's it going? Leslie, Bill, good to see you. Yep, we will definitely be down in Virginia. So hilarious. Wanda, thank you so much. Yes, of course we do. Millennials know nothing of gulags or concentration camps. It's a lack of learning history. Okay, I will. Thank you, Chris. I will indeed let me know that. Let me stop sharing that just for a second and see if we can go back. What I'm trying to do here. Let's get out of full screen. Let's see if it'll let me go out of full screen. So what I'd like to play now for you all is a clip from 2016. This is actually it's funny because we're talking about there's going to be other people released. There are other people in the Bernie campaign that were violent. It's not just the Bernie campaign. It's the DNC themselves. This is something that was a problem back in 2016. I'm going to play you a previous Project Veritas video from 2016 that is reveals Bob Creamer, Jan Schakowsky, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky from Illinois. Her husband, Bob Creamer, ran a political promotional company called Democracy Partners. They were caught on hidden camera claiming that they are paying individuals to incite physical violence. Let's watch this video from 2016, and I'm going to share that screen. Just give me a quick second to share the screen here. Here we go. And we'll play. Let me see if I can get the sound to come on. Where's my sound? Here we go.
Protesters who don't agree with them. But our undercover investigation into the Hillary Clinton Democratic Party machine reveals a very different story.
If you're there and you're protesting and you do these actions, you will be attacked at Trump rallies. That's what we.
This is Scott Fogel. He is the National Field Director for Americans United for Change. He used to work for People for the American Way, an organization funded by George Soros. He also has his own company called the Fogel Group. He is one of the dark operatives for the Clinton campaign.
We were contracted directly with the DNC and the campaign. Both.
Yeah.
I am contracted to him, but I answer.
That being Bob Creamer.
For the DNC and the head of the special events and political for the campaign.
The campaign pays DNC. DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Fogel Group. The Fogel Group goes and executes the shit on it. The thing that we have to watch is making sure there's a double blind between the actual campaign and the actual DNC and what we're doing. There's a double blind there. So that they can plausibly deny that they knew anything about it. We have a group of people in Vegas. We have a group of people in Colorado. We have a group of people in Minneapolis.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground.
This guy is Aaron Black. He works full-time for Creamer at Democracy Partners. He directs the spontaneous protests at Trump and Pence events.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me. So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party.
We have to be really careful because what we don't need is for it to show up on CNN that the DNC paid for X people to. That's not going to happen.
Zulema Rodriguez and Aaron Black are bragging about a protest last March that turned extremely violent and led the Trump campaign to cancel a huge rally. Fights broke out between protesters and Trump supporters, and 2 Chicago police officers were injured. Based on our reporting, the event was not spontaneous. Remember this woman? Her name is Shirley Teeter. She is a 69-year-old sufferer of COPD. According to numerous news stories at the time, she was assaulted at a Trump rally in North Carolina by Trump supporter Richard Campbell. The media played her story across the country for days.
She was one of our activists.
She was one of your activists.
Who had been trained up to bird dogs.
Real people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake. Over the last 20 years, I have paid off a few homeless guys to do some crazy stuff, and I've also taken them for dinner, and I've also made sure they had a hotel and a shower, and I've put them in a program. Like, I've done that, but the reality is a lot of, especially in our union guys, a lot of union guys, they'll do whatever you want. They're rock and roll.
As we continue to release more videos, you must hold the mainstream media to account to further investigate what we've uncovered.
So as you can see, folks, this is not a new phenomenon. This is something that the Democrats have actually been engaged in since the 2016 election. Since
Chair would not recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Since even probably before Trump decided to run, there's certainly mechanisms, as you said, he said for 20 years. For 20 years, we've done that. Over the last 20 years, this is not a new strategy. When you see the Bernie campaign kids, when you see this gentleman telling you that they want to make a riot, they want to make violence, they want to cause riots, race wars, all of this, it is not something that they just came up with yesterday. It's not something that's just in the Bernie campaign. It is across the spectrum, certainly. And here's just let's just share one more of this gentleman, the clip that the new gentleman, Kyle, and some of the threats he's made against, some of the things he said directly about James O'Keefe.
What about like James O'Keefe
And Project Veritas.
Yeah, that motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a special place in hell reserved for him, right?
What would you do to that guy?
What would?
What about like James O'Keefe
And Project Veritas.
So this is what we're dealing with. Now, we're outing this through the Bernie campaign yet again. Are the DNC going to do anything about it? No. Tom Perez, head of the DNC, did not in any way want to discuss it. In fact, he walked away from a journalist asking questions about it. They did not have any questions about it during the Democrat debate. They're going to try to avoid this in every way possible, but it is next to impossible to avoid that because the reality is so very, very clear. And we're going to continue to see more tapes going forward as Project Veritas promises to release several additional tapes, several additional videos of Bernie staffers who are radical leftists bent on causing violence and disrupting our political system, our peaceful political system based on the ballots. That's what they want to disrupt. They want to overthrow the government. They want to overthrow you and me. And worse, they want to overthrow this. And that is where we will have a problem, them and I. Because I demand what the founders gave each and every one of us, which is a constitutional government with individual liberties protected from the minds of the mob, protected from the idea that because I didn't get on board, comrade, with the revolution and what you thought the political situation should be, I should go to some re-education camp and have myself tormented and tortured and potentially killed. I'm trying to find the original video that they released because it's a longer version that has the I think it would help if I actually just went to Project Veritas's page. So let me try that. That has some of the even more aggressive threats that this gentleman made. This is exactly the kind of situation with needing to defend our liberty that we're talking about. Needing to defend our liberty from this kind of this is why I'm a Republican. This is why I support Republicanism, because it protects my individual liberty. It protects my right to defend myself. Let's talk. Let's play this one more.
So if Trump gets reelected, what? Cities burn.
Do you even think that some of these MAGA people could even be re-educated?
I mean, we gotta try. I mean, in Nazi Germany, after the fall of the Nazi
Thanks,
Party,
Kravitz.
there was a shit ton of the populace that was Nazified. I mean, Germany had to spend billions of dollars re-educating people to not be Nazis. We're probably gonna have to do the same thing here.
That's what he thinks happened.
Hey, free education for everybody.
He thinks that the Germans spent.
There's a reason Joseph Stalin had gulags, right? And actually, gulags were a lot better than what the CIA has told us that they were.
The CIA is the
People
informant
were
on
actually paid a
gulags.
living wage in gulags. They had conjugal visits in gulags. Gulags were actually meant for re-education. The greatest way to break a billionaire of their privilege and their idea that they're superior, go and break rocks for 12 hours a day. You're now a working class person, and you're gonna learn what that means. Right?
Bernie doesn't get the nomination. Bernie goes to the second round at the DNC convention. Milwaukee, it'll start in Milwaukee, and then when the police.
Yes, that's exactly what they want, Cindy.
If your speech is calling for the elimination of people based on race or gender or religious, for whatever reason,
or political
that people can't change,
opinion,
then you should expect a violent reaction. And you deserve a violent reaction.
Yes, unfortunately.
Milwaukee to the DNC convention.
If you want me to die because you disagree with my politics,
Girl Scout.
what can you expect? So, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about, folks. Nothing new on the Democrat side, nothing new whatsoever. I'm not sure about that. Let's look that up. I believe that he might be mentioning Milwaukee because that is, let's look up DNC convention 2020. DNC convention in Milwaukee. In Milwaukee. That's why they're saying Milwaukee will burn. And that this is fighting. Yeah, that kind of thinking is what gets people killed. Both on the sense of individuals like that are ready to snap. I mean, this guy's, his constant fantasy is violence and force and using the power, the forceful power of the state again and again to impose his political ideology. So that's not a sane person, and as someone who's very dangerous potentially to himself snap. How's it going, Maryland? That being said, this is a pervasive ideology. They do, in fact, yes, Kravitz, you're correct. They do go for the mentally ill because there are people. What the gentleman basically said in the 2016 video talking about Democracy Partners and the partnering with the DNC to pay for these violent riots that went on at the Chicago Trump rally and many other locations, they'll pay anybody. If you recall what he said, they've paid mentally ill people. They'll pay homeless people. They get the union guys. They said, oh, the union guys, they'll do whatever you want. Whatever you want. Whatever act of violence, whatever act of mayhem, whatever act of instigation. And what has been used, what's happened with the left, and this has been ongoing throughout since 2015. This has been an ongoing pattern. What the left will do is they will threaten violence, they will commit acts of violence. And then they use that threat of their violence to suggest that right-wingers, that conservatives, that Republicans should not be allowed to speak at schools or at events, that those events should be shut down, or that the conservatives should pay an extremely high rate of cost for security because the left-wingers are going to attack and be violent. So they use their violence to shut down our free speech again and again. It's a common tactic, and they have amped that up. We've seen it in Berkeley with Milo Yiannopoulos. We've seen it with Ann Coulter. We've seen it with Jeanine Pirro. We've seen it with Pamela Geller. We've seen it again and again with individuals who have had their speech shut down. Brandon Straka, who have had their events shut down either through one of three ways. One, through actual physical violence. Two, through threats of physical violence that the event place planners or school fear for the safety of individuals, so they shut down the event out of that panic, or shut down through the event location requiring massive amounts of security at an exorbitant and, in fact, prohibitive cost, so that these individuals, these conservatives, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, many of these organizations cannot then go to these schools. In fact, there's been a lawsuit gone through and won with a young lady who, with groups who have been charged by these schools with these exorbitant expenses, and we're certainly pushing back on this, but it's a long battle. You see, the war has barely begun because these goons think they're still in power. Now, yeah, Kravitz, you're 100%. Kravitz says, yet they invite drag queens to read to our kids at libraries and sex offenders. Yes, not just drag queens, sex offenders. Sexual offender drag queens. So it's worse. It's worse. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to say about this going forward is that it's going to be continued. This is why we see what's going on in Richmond with the rally coming up on the 20th and the fear and panic that the governor declaring a state of emergency is trying to instigate. We see really where that all comes from. It comes from a leftist drive to create the fear, create the panic, and instigate violence if violence won't occur naturally. And that's what we see in the Bob Kramer video, in the original 2016 video on Project Veritas. We're going to see more. James O'Keefe is not done with this. He has stated that several state offices, Bernie's fundraising and volunteer state offices have shut down, have locked up their accounts, locked up their social media accounts so that more information cannot be gathered, so they do not know who's been working with them. They're trying to cover their backsides because, as James O'Keefe has said, there are other individuals. This is a pervasive a mindset. Even the gentleman in the campaign, Mr. Kyle there, said there's many like him in the campaign. So there are additional videos coming forward, and we're going to need to keep adding that. I have said this from the beginning with the Bernie Sanders campaign. I said it in 2016. There were many people who thought that Bernie would be easier for Donald Trump to beat than Hillary Clinton. And I said no. I said no, it won't be, because what you're going to unleash by empowering a candidate like Bernie Sanders, what you're going to unleash is a radical leftist element of our society that will stop at nothing, that will believe the revolution is here, that it's time to commit acts of violence, that it is time to use any means necessary or beyond any means necessary, as their organizations are named. So by empowering Bernie Sanders, the Democrats have, by embracing him, seeking his radical vote block, these radical leftists that will vote for and vehemently support Bernie Sanders. The DNC is so desperate for votes, they are willing to embrace someone like Bernie Sanders, who they have no intention of actually letting run their party in any way. They're oligarchs. As we say, as I've educated people so many times, communism, socialism, it is a two-tier system. 2 tiers. The proletariat and the bourgeoisie, if you want to call it that. In communism, they still have those 2 tiers. In fact, in reality, in capitalism, you have many tiers. You have the middle class, you have the upper middle class, you have the lower middle class, you have the working class, you have the poor class, you have the wealthy class. You got range, okay, with capitalism, because I can exchange my goods, my labors, my services for a price that I negotiate myself as an individual. Under communism, I don't do that. I've given my labor up to the state. The state then gives me whatever I need. So there's a few people at the top who control all of the wealth. And then there's everybody else. So there's 2 classes. The class up at the top, who has to have nice things because they have to deal with the money. And it's such a stressful job being a leader. And we can't have our leaders appear to be poor or to not have the best of things. Other countries will shame us. So they have to live in nice houses. They have to drive nice cars. They have to wear nice suits. They have to fly around on jets. They have to go to fancy luncheons. You don't. You just get your allotment and do your labor. Pound your 12 hours of rocks. There you go. So the reality of the situation is that by empowering Bernie Sanders, the Democrats have empowered a radical element of domestic terrorists to be paid by the DNC to engage in domestic election terrorism. Now, back in 2017, I wrote a letter to the FEC, wrote a letter to the DOJ, wrote a letter to the FBI, asking them, begging them, sending them a copy of this video, begging them to investigate these statements. You know, it's not even claims. It's not like Project Veritas was making claims that these individuals said these things. They're on videotape actually saying, we pay individuals to start riots, to commit acts of violence. And the DNC and Bob Kramer through the DNC here, they explained the lie. The DNC pays Democracy Partners. Democracy Partners pays the Foval Group. The Foval Group pays me and the other guys who do stuff on the street, the violent stuff on the street. They said it with their own mouths. So this is a pervasive, obvious issue. Nothing happened from that, by the way. Those 3 letters, I got 1 letter back from I believe the state's attorney that said if you would need to rewrite the letter, you would need to have a lawyer help you rewrite the letter to request this investigation be started, which was highly frustrating to me because I, as a citizen, should not have to write a fancy lawyered up letter to get you to investigate criminal, violent domestic terrorism affecting and impacting our election processes. I should not, when one party is paying people to commit acts of violence, where officers were injured, where individuals were harmed, where property was damaged. If that's happening, which if what they said out of their own mouths it was, and most likely still is. 2017, Kravitz, 2017, yes. Kravitz, that's when did I send these letters? 2017, and we held a protest. We marched from Jan Schakowsky's office. We had a nice group of people. We marched to the post office. We mailed the letters. We had the news come out. We got news coverage. Nothing. Nothing. No response. No investigation. So, obviously, because we see those agencies, particularly in the Illinois state level, still very in bed. We see Kim Foxx. We see the state's attorney with the Jussie Smollett case. Juicy Smollett. We see that kind of corruption going on in Illinois, so you don't expect much from that. Certainly, we know that the Obama administration had at the beginning of the Trump presidency, packed the FBI, packed probably the FEC as well. How's it going, Leslie? Sonia, how's it going? With left-leaning supporters who are happy to look the other way, who are happy to shuffle these things aside. So I'm not surprised at the new Project Veritas videos that are coming out. I'm not surprised about anything that's happening because I've seen it already. I've actually been addressing this issue since 2016 when the first revelation came out about the current manifestation of the Democratic National Committee and what utter neo-fascists, violent neo-fascists they actually are. Now, let's talk a little bit about other ways in which communism is creeping into our system, not just through our political system. Thank you, Sonia. Not just through the way these neo-fascists are operating, not just our democratic socialists, but we have a group called Houses for Moms. You might have seen the story. The left is playing it as much as they possibly can. There were women out in California, San Francisco, who were forcibly removed from a home they had been squatting in. Now, they were actually advised by a group called Homes for Moms. It is an anti-private property group. What do I mean anti-private property? They don't believe that that your house is your house. They don't believe you own your house. They don't believe if a house is empty, anybody should be able to live there. And the property owner has no right to not let people live in their house. So that is the premise of Homes for Moms. And they advocate and advise and help women to squat in these properties. These are the women that were these women working with this group, Homes for Moms, were removed. They finally, the state government, the local government got enough through the process to remove these women. Well, of course, there's a big stink. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all of the leftists come out, make a big stink of pushing back against these women being removed, playing on your heartstrings. Oh, this poor, look how hateful you are. Look how evil you are. You don't want women to have homes. These homes are sitting vacant and people are homeless, but you don't care. Right. Because in fact, there are countless programs, private programs, religious-based programs, state programs, many ways in which assistance can be provided. Many, many, many ways, including instead of having an organization that uses its money, raises money to help women break in other people's homes, why don't you make an organization that helps provide them with actual homes? San Francisco, Kravitz. San Francisco is my understanding. It's a program that's happening throughout California. Certainly, we had some problems with it in Florida. If you recall, prior to Governor DeSantis and what I say a really reddening in Florida, we saw some of these same squatter laws. We saw some of the same decay of lawfulness. Now we see a similar decay of lawfulness with the bail bond, with the bail reform in New York. What we see in New York, obviously, bail reform, they are letting individuals out. You cannot hold an individual on bail for almost nearly any crime whatsoever. So violent offenders, anti-Semitic attackers have been let out immediately. There's a man this week let out. He robbed a bank 4 times. They let him out. He robbed the bank again. They had to let him out again on bail reform. So now he had robbed a bank 5 times. And he got out and he robbed the bank again 6 times. They had to let him out again. They let him out again. They let him out again 6 times. 4 times, robbed the bank, let him out, robbed another bank, caught him, had to let him out for bail reform. After 5 times, he robbed another bank 6 times. They had to arrest him and let him out again. Bail reform hasn't been implemented that long. This man's been robbing banks pretty much as quick as he gets out. It's like, oh, I'm out. Go rob another bank. This is what we see going on in New York. Utter decay of the rule of law. So the Democrats are pushing very hard to create that kind of pressure through physical intimidation, through the decay of the rule of law, the decay of family values, and we're pushing back. And we're doing a lot of winning. Let's talk about a few of the things that we are winning with. President Trump signed the agreement with China today. It is a over $200 billion agreement. Over the next 2 years, China will be purchasing another $200 billion of American goods, including, or in addition to that, another $50 billion of farm goods and agricultural products. China hit our farmers very hard with their sanctions against us. With their tariffs, not sanctions, tariffs. But certainly, now that we've sat down and we see the stage 1 agreement is the stage 1. We're still working on additional agreements. We're going to be addressing things like intellectual property, so many of the issues we have with China currency manipulation, many things. Amazing day, a historic day, and certainly one that we were going to see some very interesting developments economically going forward now that we've made this agreement. Mainstream media didn't want to talk about it all. All the mainstream media could talk about was Nancy delivering the impeachment articles. So they have selected the managers for the impeachment. The managers are the people who go to the Senate, take their little articles, obstruction of Congress and abuse of power, which are not one. I don't even think they prove he did those things. But additionally, on top of that, 2, those are not high crimes and misdemeanors, thus in no way indicate a need for impeachment. But they are the individuals, the managers, the ones who are going to the Senate and will present the House's case to the Senate. And then the Senate will decide how the trial will proceed, whether or not witnesses will be called, what witnesses will be called, and how the votes will go forward, whether we be dismissed, a quick acquittal, whether we will go through process, etc. Now, I suspect the House to continue to try to manipulate the situation. They have already, lying snakes, they have already added to the articles of impeachment stuff that was not voted on. So they've already took the bill that they voted on and passed, and then added to that bill, threw some more stuff in it to give to the Senate. So I saw a meme the other day that that we could power America for 500 years just by the energy of the founders spinning over in their graves, and I fully believe that to be true, because it is this kind of stuff that the founders, certainly when they wrote down this beautiful piece of literature, this beautiful document, the Constitution, our beautiful little Constitution. When they wrote this down, they had some ideas that it was going to get crazy. I suspect they might not have thought quite this crazy. See, if the founders knew, the founders knew just how crazy we would end up in this country, how much of a situation we were going to have, they would have written the Second Amendment like it is: well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And they would have added to the bottom that, no, really, not infringed means not infringed. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Zip. They would have made it longer with a bunch of extra words that let these moron Democrats, if they had any idea how bad it was going to get over here. So, Avenatti's in jail, though. The FBI arrested Avenatti, and Weinstein's trial is moving forward. Harvey Weinstein looks to there's some real risk of him spending some significant time in jail. The charges are not going well. The judge is not happy, and they are now seeking a change of venue. But we'll see. We'll continue to see. We're going to need you going forward. Get on our phones. Get on our emails. Write letters to every Republican senator in this country. I need you to listen to what I just said, because this is an important call to action. Every Republican senator needs to hear from every single Trump supporter, every single patriot. We need to flood their offices, let them know they must vote responsibly, that these articles of impeachment are a joke, that they do not include any high crimes or misdemeanors. This is a witch hunt against a duly elected president, and we, the American people, will not stand for this grotesque disfigurement of our Constitution and our system of checks and balances. And we insist, if they intend to keep their seats, we will primary them. And listen, we won't forget. When you call them, let them know. We won't forget. We're not going to forget. Okay, senators, if you vote to impeach our president, we're not going to forget. Ever. So, if it's not this election, it's the next election or the next election. Your terms are only 6 years, my dear senator friends. You will come up for re-election, and we will remember, and we will primary you and remove you from office at the ballot box. Guaranteed. Let them know that. Tell every single one of our Republican senators, we are watching you, and we are elephants. Never forget. Never, 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 never. And while you're at it, call the Democrats. Tell them, be responsible. The position of senator is a huge responsibility. It's not a game, a political game. Vote responsibly. Vote to respect the will of the American people. Vote to uphold the Constitution. Vote to keep impeachment merely for high crimes and misdemeanors, and not because you didn't win the election. You don't like the guy. Not a political manipulative tactic, which is what the Democrats sadly have turned it into. And they should all be ashamed of themselves. We know that. So, that is our show for today, folks. We will be back again. Of course, go to the DemocratsAreNuts.com. We're going to be talking about all this stuff over there. President Nutcracker and his crack team of journalists are going to be talking, Nutcracker journalists are going to be talking about it over there. You can, of course, support the show at patreon.com/Trump Talk US. We appreciate all that. That's what allows me to afford paying for the nice software that lets me broadcast to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube all at the same time, which keeps the censors at bay. It really makes it harder for them to shut me down if we are able to spread out on different platforms, cross-platforming, as I call it. I want to congratulate Governor General Flynn, or General Mike Flynn, who has rescinded his guilty charges and is now pleading not guilty to the charges. That case is going to be moving forward as well with a good fight. We certainly continue to push forward for pardoning Roger Stone. We're preparing, in fact, our good friend Isaac Smith is preparing a fundraiser event here on February 8th in DC. So we got a lot of great stuff going on. Tune in again. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we are here 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. And we're always going to be talking about the latest news of the day. I'm going to be going live from the Women's March later on Saturday this week. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more on Friday, but it looks like a great week, a very busy week of some big Patriot stuff to do. So let's get some energy going. I pulled up one of my favorites. Oh, it's supposed to go. Hopefully it'll go. Let's see. It is coming. It's coming. It's worth the wait, you guys. It'll be worth the wait.
So, you know, either get on the train or, you know, who cares?
Buffering. Thank you very much for tuning in, Karen. You're welcome, Deidre, Trisha, Sonia, Carol, Chris, everybody, my Monkin. I love you so much. You know, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again each and every one of you on Friday. Tune back in. Until then, this is your girl, as always, Suzzanne Monk. Chirping out.